Welcome back to the Firewall Files and happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope you've had a great month, first month of the year. I hope it hasn't gone to shit yet. We're on week 3, so mine apparently hasn't gone to shit yet, I hope. We'll find out because this is pre-recorded. But today, we've talked about my embarrassing moments, we've talked about my dogs. I just want to talk about me because that's what this is. I've said it a million times. It's always going to be about me, different parts of me, but I want to get into like who I was before I was Firewall Fox, before the files. So we're going to talk about like where I came from, where like what has shaped me, high school, small town USA in Indiana, that type of vibe. We're getting real country today, so I would grab your cowboy boots, your cowboy hats, microwave some beanie weenies up, and get ready for today's episode. Today's episode is sponsored by nobody because I'm not fucking sponsored, but I just thought that would sound cool. So today's episode is sponsored by myself because I paid to put myself on this fucking platform. Actually, it's probably sponsored by subs, so thank you. Thank you if you're a sub on Twitch. Last episode I want to address because I think it's going to sound different, but I did the whole listening to myself talk through the headphones, and I realized that it made me kind of like draw my words out kind of thing, and I didn't like that. So I'm just going to go in raw, as always, and we'll see how it sounds this time. So if you could sit through last week's episode, I appreciate that. I probably won't be doing it anymore. I think I was waiting too long to hear myself talk, and it just got dragged out and I sound like a valley girl, and that's just not who I am. Who I am is a freak. But I just woke up and I immediately sat down on my computer, so these are like wide awake, just happening now thoughts. These are live. Boom, 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 boom. It's happening. It's coming at you. Get ready. Left, right. Oh. So that's what I'm doing today. We could start with, I don't know. Like, there's a lot to my lore. I'm almost 25 now. So like I better like tell this before I forget it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna start hitting memory loss age soon. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, she's only gonna be 25 and she's making me feel old, I want to reiterate 30 to 35 is the hottest you'll ever be, personally to me. Like, as a sitting 24-year-old right now, if you're 30 to 35, no, you're hot as fuck. Like, you are like, there's just something about being that age where you just like you've done it. Like, you're young, you're still young looking, but like you've matured in your facial features. You're not sitting like through, you might still be, but it's not as bad, I'm hoping. But like the whole bad acne, you have like the baby face transitioning into a adult face, stuff like that. So I think, I don't know. At least every time I've seen somebody, like when I'd watch like TV shows and they'd be in their 20s, I'd be like, oh, they're like attractive. And then like I go check up on them now. I'm like, where are they now? And they're like 33. I'm like, holy fuck, they're hot as shit. Like they've just like peaked. And speaking of peaking, which I did not do in high school, we'll get into my life. Let's divulge into it all. So I come from a small town in southern Indiana. And when I say small, I literally graduated with like maybe 120 people. We have one high school in my town, one middle school, and like 3 elementary schools, and that's it. I didn't have a pool in my high school. We weren't that cool. If we had, like, we didn't have swim. We didn't even have FFA, if you know what that is. So it's just Future Farmers of America, which you would think is like so butt fuck country to have. But we just like, we're so small. We couldn't afford it. I had a gym in my high school and a theater, and that was really about it. We had a shitty football team that I don't think they won a single game my senior year, and most of our homecomings were held in our cafeteria. Proms we did go all out for. Jumping ahead of myself because high school's so easy to talk about. But I grew up with my grandparents. Both my parents had been divorced by the time, not divorced, they were never married, but they split. Both my parents had split. Um, my dad was much older and disabled, and had, he didn't, we're getting into my lore for real, guys. He didn't leave because, like, your typical dad, like, left, but my mom was a little different, I'll say. I know a lot of people from back home are listening to this, so I'm not trying to like air this business out, but I mean, I am. But she was just a little bit different and she didn't want to be with my dad anymore, so my dad just kind of had to do his own thing. But he came around still for my birthdays and stuff like that. And then my mom just kind of like took off and did a bunch of shit. So I lived with my grandparents. So I lived on about 8 acres of land with trees, and I had a pond, creeks, like very like I was able to explore a lot of nature. I loved being outside. I'd go in the creek. I would take rocks out of the creek and I would mash them up and I would make like creek pottery. It was like such a wholesome thing. I go like foraging for mushrooms, morels. You've seen me make that on stream once. Big lover morels, and they're so hard to find out in the wild and they're so expensive to buy. So like I don't know, I feel like morel mushrooms are just a really big part of my character. My love of morel mushrooms is next level. Big, I love to fish because I had the pond, rode my bike outside a lot. Like I would eat like the fresh blackberries. I'd go barefoot, like very typical little country girl, and it was wholesome. So I was basically an only child. I mean, I was an only child to my grandparents. They were both retired at this point. They both worked at the Indianapolis Water Company for many, many years. My grandpa worked at a factory as well. They retired by the time I was like living with them, which was around age 12. And that was like the coolest thing is like, so what my parents left me, you know what I'm saying? But to have parents that were, I call them my parents. So when you hear my parents, I'm talking about my grandparents moving forward in the story. Um, I, my best childhood years were living with them, and I owe a lot to them of the person I am and how they've made me. So I'm always going to refer to them as my parents. So when I say that, think my grandparents. So the cool thing about having parents who are retired is they are there for every step you take, which like when you're a teenager, that shit's annoying as fuck. But here's the two cool things. They show up, they have retirement funds for me to do things. They have all the time in the world, but they're also old enough to not understand technology at that time. And we're talking like 2012 through 2018 type of technology. So like using like Skyward, if you ever had that in high school or junior high, like Skyward to check your grades, they didn't know how to use that. If we wanted to go, and we also didn't have internet in my house. So if they wanted to go check something, they'd have to go to the public library and then I'd have to show them how to do it. And like most times I would just be like, oh, I don't know how to use it. Like there was this one time, I'm gonna be so real. I got an iPod Touch for my first like tech thing. I was 14, I would say. And you're gonna be like, wow, this was like so young, like whatever. Listen, like worse shit's happen to people, okay? But I was 14 and some guy my age, to make it like story, understandable. Not like, oh my God, she's a victim. Some guy my age and we were like on like a WhatsApp, or no. It was iMessage through the phone, through the iPod. Anyways, the iPod was set up through my grandma's email because like, you're young. She didn't want me to like be able to just download random apps, and she watches the news all the fucking time. So every app was like diabolical. Anyways, so if back in the day, I don't know, I don't think they still do it, but like if you would send message, I think it still happens if you send messages like iMessages through Wi-Fi to an email, like an iCloud account and not a phone number, which is like how my iPod was set up. So this guy had sent me a nude. And I'm like not a junior, I'm like a sophomore in high school, okay? Get it together. This guy had sent me a nude and it came through the email, but it wasn't like the photo itself. It was like a link to look at the photo. And I'm at the library and my grandma's like, what do you think this is? It says iCloud. And like iCloud scams, like email scams are really big. They always have been. I knew exactly what it was. I saw the name at the top of the fucking email and I was like, "Oh my God." Like, "Oh my God, it's over. I'm gonna shit my pants." And she was like, "Should I open this?" And I was like, and this was like my time to shine. All the hours that she had spent watching the news had like come for this moment. And I said, "Oh my God, no. Like, all those iCloud like email scams, you're probably gonna get a virus." And it's like, listen, I'm talking 14. Bitch, I was a tech girl before I was a tech girl, okay? I was like selling this shit. I said, "No, you're gonna get like a virus, like shit's gonna get hacked." She's like, "Oh yeah, you're right." I was like, "You should just delete it." And so she just deleted it. And I went in there later to like, like there's like recently deleted. I made sure that shit was wiped. Wiped. I was not having it. So I schemed my way out of that little derailment story there, but I think it's really funny. And then I learned my lesson not to do anything crazy until the iPod was in my name. Anyways, back to that of my parents. They're not unemployed. That's crazy. They were retired. They were in their like, by the time I was born, they were in their early 60s. So by the time I'd moved in with them, they were in their like mid 60s. I don't know. Both my parents passed away when they were 72 and like 74. So, and they passed away in 2018 and then like 2021, I believe. But they were old enough to retire because back then you could have a good job and retire early. I don't know if that's what happened. I didn't really divulge into it. So you're probably going to hear also stories just about my grandparents that I learned, and it's like wholesome. Like they were married for the year my grandpa passed away. He passed away 3 days after my birthday, and that next like week would have been their 50th anniversary. So like they were together for a while. But anyways, so growing up, they had a lot of free time, and it was so nice because I was involved in a lot, and without that free time for them to like, it gave them stuff to do, right? When you're retired, so I hear, like you need stuff to do. And I kind of feel the same way when I went full-time streaming. It's just like I need to get out. I need to see the world. I need to like do something. And having a grandchild, I think really was like, I think not to like brag, but I think um I don't know, like this makes me emotional. I think having me was like the best thing to happen to them, but not because I'm saying that, because oh my goodness, this is such a raw episode. This was supposed to be funny. Not because like I'm like, oh, a stick up my ass, but like genuinely like the amount of time they showed up and involved me in things. It wasn't because like it wasn't because they were trying to do it to like make the best child they could. It was because it gave them something to like live for. And like when you're young, you don't understand that, but like looking back, it's just nice to know you had cheerleaders and people who supported and loved you. All right. I'm getting it together. That was like so out of left field, but like that's the thing about grief is like it never goes away. You learn how to like manage it, but it never like leaves. Um, so anyways, wrapping the wholesome moment up. Anyways, they involved me in a lot of stuff. And for that, I am so grateful because I got so many opportunities from it. The opportunities I didn't always take. For example, I had a 4-year scholarship to college for golf, but I was like, I decided to go do something else, and I knew I wasn't gonna be good at college, so I didn't want to like ruin it, so I just didn't take it. But I was involved in so much stuff. I was in Girl Scouts for years. I was in 4-H. Um, I was involved, like I said, in golf since the grade of 8 all the way to senior year. I did color guard. I did winter guard. I did volleyball, I did tennis, I did softball, I did soccer, I did band. I was a trumpet player, motherfuckers. Um, so I did a lot. I have a lot of experiences, and I think because of that, it's also made me so outgoing because like performing. I love performing. And that's why all of those things you do, whether it's a sport, whether it was like winter or color guards or like putting on a show. I did theater. I was putting on shows. Tr I was in choir. I can't fucking sing, but I joined choir one year for shits and giggles. Uh, being in band, you're putting on a show. Like it was just so fun doing performances, and that was like what I love to do. And I think that's what really helped me not be a person who is like always in their shell, which there's nothing wrong with, but like I'm just like sometimes really impressed at myself of how outgoing I am. And I'm like, when is somebody gonna like tell me to shut the fuck up? Like put me back in my shell. Luckily nobody has, but sometimes I'm just like, damn, like how'd I get this far? So I did a lot of that stuff. I did flag football, another banger on the record. I was doing everything. Um, and because I mean, like, it's a small town. Like, what am I supposed to do? Okay. We have a McDonald's and a Subway, and that's our fast food. We don't have like Kroger. We don't have Walmart. We had like a little store called IGA, if you know what that is. That was like high price shit because the every time I wanted to go to Walmart, we do a family outing on Saturday to drive 45 minutes to go to Walmart, get food for the week or next 2 weeks. We'd go eat at like Red Lobster or I don't know, fucking Wendy's. We'd go to the mall because like I'm at school the whole time for the rest of the week and there's no need to go all the way out there, doctor's appointments, stuff like that. Like, you know, we weren't rich. We were definitely not rich, but enough that we could like have me do these experiences, join these teams. Like all of their retirement money went to me, but not like handing it to me like, oh, go buy like a pair of Nikes. No, I was in the Walmart section shopping for clothes on like I before school, like school shopping, like everybody goes gets their stuff. I was buying the 99-cent folders, the book bag that was $1.20. I'd got to go to the mall to buy one new cool outfit, and then the rest all had to come from Walmart. But the money they did have, it went to like me participating in sports or buying school photos or buying yearbooks or class rings. Don't even get me started on class rings because that is such stupid shit. But my grandma was like, "You have to have one." I have no clue where that thing is. I think it's like gone. It's definitely like in a landfill somewhere by accident, but it's gone. I have no clue where a goddamn class ring is. And also, what is little old me with these skinny ass fingers gonna do with a Super Bowl ring on my fingers? Like, what am I doing? I was involved in a lot of stuff. We had one really good Mexican restaurant, banger Mexican restaurant, and it's not like it's very white people. And that's where I think growing up in a small town really stunted me is because I can't do spicy things. There's not a damn thing in that town that's spicy. We have like little sandwich shops or little soup shops or we have like a Greek stand I used to work at, in a Mexican restaurant that was banging. And the best part is I was dating this guy in high school whose best friend, his mom owned the Mexican restaurant. So when we went to his graduation party, guess what they had? Banging Mexican food. It was so good. And like this woman was like the millionaire of our town because his house, like I said, it's a only Mexican restaurant. It's like the best sit down place. Like she's been running that town for years. We've seen restaurants like up and go, but this woman was an entrepreneur. Like mad respect to her. But their house was gorgeous. Like it had a pool outside, in a in-ground pool, and a hot tub. And when you went inside, they had fucking pillars in their house. Pillars. We're talking like Tony Soprano house, okay? It was beautiful. I was so lucky to date a guy who knows, that guy. He was an awesome guy too. Shout out. I don't know if this will get back to you, but since not being with that guy anymore, it's like, you stick with your friends kind of thing, and they were his friends. But he was a really nice guy, and I had a great time getting to know him. So shout out to your mom because like she be running business. She be making that money and that's impressive. But that Mexican food is very white people in the best way for me. Like they definitely have good Mexican food there, but I'm getting like the fat ass burrito with the non-spicy queso on it. Oh, the queso there is unmatched. I miss it so much. It's one of the reasons I go home like once a year is to get some non-spicy queso. We can't like in our town we're not allowed to have light up signs. That's like a rule. There's no like flashing lights. Like every sign that's like on a building has to be lit up by another light. So it's like pointing at the sign, which like is such a random like little tidbit, but like that's how like controlled it is, I guess. But it definitely like I'm not sitting here hyping it up because it definitely has its downfalls. Um like here's like a sad but like fucked up story of my hometown is we had a foreign exchange student one year. Uh she came from I think from China, I believe. And we had this photography class where everybody would get like these nice like Nikon cameras and you'd go out into town because the high school was like smack dab in the middle of this tiny town. So we'd go out for lunch, you could walk around. Like a lot of class projects were like let's leave the building. Anyway, so she's walking around downtown and like you're just supposed to like find things to photograph, right? Like make art out of it. And she's walking around downtown and this fucking crackhead, which we don't have crackheads in this town. It's just like bumfuck idiots, like one single strand of gray hair on their head and like two teeth. He dead ass in the middle of the town. I don't know where the fuck he pulled this out of his ass. He throws a hatchet, like a fucking hatchet, like you cut down trees with, into her back. Okay. So I'm sitting here talking about like how cute my little town is. It's not always cute. It's definitely got its fucking issues. She went to the hospital, healed up fine. She surprisingly wanted to stay, so she did. But I think he got like arrested or something. I don't know what happened. We're also like right next to a major college and other things being like a lot of high school girls will go missing and killed and then because I lived in a very woodsy area, so they'd get like murdered and then dumped in our county because it's like very easy to lose people there. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But like we definitely have our ghosts. We definitely have our demons. And I can't say like all is welcome there. Unfortunately, I wish I could. But that's not me. That's the town. That's just where I was raised. I did not pick up on those habits, as you can tell. And there's a reason why I left. Like I definitely miss just like being home is just a whole vibe, right? Like you're just like, this is where it started. This is me. This is where the egg was hatched. But you're not proud of it. You're not like, oh yeah, like I did it. Like I'm from here. Now there's probably some towns like that are great towns, but it's just like I'm not proud of it, but I do acknowledge that no matter what, I can't change that it is home for me. One of my big part of my childhood was with my grandparents is my parents' free time was this big trip to Route 66. So this is where I'm turning like 14, 15, kind of understanding the value of life, kind of understanding like what's in the world. This is where I think my travel bug comes from because like I said, we weren't rich, but we would do a lot of things as my grandma would call day trips, where we would drive 2 hours out of our way to go see some history site or to some like cute little other town that we could go shopping in. And this one was the big one. This was like, and they've traveled all their lives as well. They couldn't have kids, so they adopted my mom. So they had a lot of time to travel. And when they adopted my mom, they wanted to like give her the best life possible. So they traveled out. They went on cruises. They went to every state but Alaska. That was the one place they had left to go in the US. And unfortunately, they didn't make it. But it is my goal in this life to get to Alaska with them. with their ashes. I have like a necklace, not to like dump their ashes, but like I just want to take them. They hang in my kitchen right now because that's where I need the most help. So when I'm cooking, I'm like, dear God, please help me. But they've been everywhere, but their big, I would say their final trip together before things started to get downhill with their illnesses were Route 66 and I. That was the big one. We drove from Indiana and then went up the northern part of Highway 50 and came back, went all the way to LA and came all the way back. And we did not touch a single interstate. I'm not like, we didn't go past probably the speed limit of 65 the whole time, except for when we were out in the desert and that shit's like 120 and you're flying. But that was like really, looking back, I was having fun because, you know, you would stop and see the cool stuff. But in between, I was miserable because I'm like in the back seat listening to my iPod. I'm thinking I'm in a movie looking out the window. I'm like, damn, like when's the next stop? Fuck. So we'd stop at like Kansas City, we did stuff in. We stopped in New Mexico. We stopped in Utah. I fucking saw plateaus with my own eyes. Y'all ever seen a damn plateau before? Um, that shit like blew my mind because that's like stuff I saw in science books, like plateaus. I was like, that's a damn plateau. You ever heard plateau so much? And I remember going through the redwoods in California, you know, the big ass trees that you can't even like wrap like a quarter of your body around. And we were in that national park for 3 hours trying to get out. Like, not lost, it's just a really big park. And I had no cell service. And at 14, 15, that is major. That is just life changing. So I just took a nap. I got out and saw the stuff. You know, I wrapped my arms around the tree. I did all that kind of stuff. But waiting to get out of that was criminal at the time. I saw Cadillac Ranch, and I think that's in New Mexico. I could be wrong though, or Arizona. If you don't know what Cadillac Ranch is, it's this like art display kind of thing. It's in the middle of like a goddamn cow field in the middle of nowhere, and it's about 11 Cadillacs nose deep in the ground. And you go there with spray paint, and you can spray paint your name. You can spray paint. You can do whatever you want. So that was really cool. I'd say my favorite stop of it all. We'll get to LA because this is where my hatred of California comes from. It starts here. But I would say my favorite stop was Lake Tahoe. That place, like, I think that's where my mind was like, holy shit, like, there's beautiful things to see. Like, it's time to wake up. And if you've never been to Lake Tahoe, it's in Nevada. Beautiful tall trees, very foresty, with crystal blue waters. Like, I don't know. Like, I've been to the Bahamas, St. Thomas, stuff like that. Like, it's kind of like that, but clearer. Like, I can't explain it. It's blue, it's beautiful, it's cold because there's mountains. But the problem with Lake Tahoe is that you have to choose either the north or the south side to be at, because in the middle of the night, if you say, like, you go eat dinner on the south side and you have a cabin in the north side, there's no lights and you're driving on the edge of mountains to get to the other side. There's no road lights. So if you don't know where you're going, it's very terrifying. And that's the only downfall if you ever think about going there. Stick to one side, really research what side you want to be on, and go in the daytime. Yeah, Lake Tahoe, I think, was top of my list for me. It was gorgeous. I've never seen anything like it. Now, my hatred for California stems here. This was also, ooh, I don't know the year exactly, but this was like the year the US soccer team was like gonna win. And mind you, I was big into soccer back then. I couldn't tell you shit about it now. But I was loving soccer. And they had the US jerseys you could buy at Dick's Sporting Goods. They were sold out everywhere. I wanted one so goddamn bad. Because, mind you, this is a 3-week road trip, so all of this is happening. I'm like, oh, yo, I want to wear this on the trip. So we go to um down in LA. We're driving, like Hollywood and Vine type of LA. And I see one, I think. Looking back, I can't 100% say I saw it, but maybe I was just like, I swore to God I saw it and somebody bought it while we were driving around. And I'm like, oh my God, there's one right there. And my grandma was like, she was like, Gary, go turn around and let's go get it. But the problem with LA is there's nowhere, you can't just like park on the side of the road. And if you can, the spot's already taken. So we're doing laps and we go back around and I can't see the shirt anymore. And I can't remember the story either. And I'm like, damn, like, where'd it go? And so we're doing laps. And my grandparents are very religious people, very Catholic core, okay? Never said a curse word in front of me besides like damn or like God damn it, okay? And we're driving and it's so crowded down there. There's so many people everywhere. It's LA traffic. And my grandpa goes, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. We're not getting it. Fuck this fucking shit. And I was like, oh, I was like, you know what? I don't need that jersey. I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. And I don't blame him. Because if I had to drive in that, I'd be having a panic attack as well. So I totally understand it now. Like I appreciate what they tried to do for me, but like so valid of him. 100%. So that was just like that wasn't the reason I hate LA, but that was a cute little story of one of my times in LA. So anyways, we park and we start walking down. We go see like, what is it? Like the Hollywood Stars or whatever that has like all the actors and stuff on it. And that was cool. I see the giant Scientology building. That is crazy as hell. Crazy. It's like a baby blue building that looks like a psych hospital. Very interesting stuff. They also my biggest pet peeve of why I hate it is not just there wasn't that many people there that day for me. Like I didn't feel like I was like suffocated by crowds by any means. But and I've been to Vegas, okay? This is like we're talking the Vegas back in the time where they would hand out little like baseball cards to strippers with like tits on it and they'd be like, hey, you could like call this girl to your room and like you collect those. So it's like I'm used to people handing me stuff. That's not like you get that everywhere. Same in New York. But in LA, it's a different beast. It's every 5 to 7 steps, they're like shoving something in your face, shoving it. And I'm like, no, I'm like 14. What the fuck am I going to do with this? And it's like, I couldn't even like look at a storefront because it would be somebody standing there trying to sell me something. And I just had to keep my head down way more than I even did in New York. And it was just miserable. Like, I just didn't like that. I don't know why that really just stuck with me for the rest of my life, but it did. It just like ruined it because the only thing I could look at was the ground and the stars on the ground. Like, that was it. That was cool. I couldn't tell you, besides the stars, the Hollywood sign, and the Scientology building, I really don't know what other significant building was around because I couldn't look up. Like I said, I did all this stuff. I was in like the play Annie, classic. I was a maid. Ooh. I was like with the extras when we needed it, but I had like my own little part. I had like one line. That was like my one and only line ever. Because I can't sing, so I was never a lead. But I don't know what my line was, but I said the fuck out of it. I was like, this is my moment. So I was in Annie. I was in, I can't honestly remember. No, I wasn't in Midsummer. I was in Midsummer Night's Dream, but I was like a techie back then. I also was a part of the tech department. And I'll do another episode of like my tech background, and that's where all of that stems from. But I was a part of the tech department, which I'm gonna say this much about it. I had no interest in ever being a tech person. Like that just wasn't my thing. But the guy I was dating in high school, big tech nerd, like loved tech. He was a part of the tech department. And I was like, you know, I love this kid so much. I was willing to learn his sphere because he would tell me stuff when I'd go over to his house. He'd be like, you know, I installed this, I installed that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I wanted to be so a part of his world that I involved myself in tech to understand it better for us. Looking back now, it's taken me a long way from just trying to impress a boy. And the saddest part of that story is we were together all throughout high school. We broke up after high school. But the saddest part of that story is I and this is the reason why we broke up. I learned tech for this guy, and I was like putting myself out here to learn all these things. I'd go to Micro Center. I was listening, but he couldn't like understand. Like he couldn't name one Taylor Swift song. And do you understand how important Taylor Swift is to me? I'm like, I'm out here installing fucking SSDs, and you can't even name a Taylor Swift song. Like looking back, I was too in love, too in love with a boy in high school, and it just wasn't reciprocated. But I also, as much as it's like a fuck you, I also have to say thank you, because without me wanting to be better for him and the knowledge of it, I definitely would not be here today. So, you know, there's some props there. I would have never been in this sphere. I would not be in this place. I would not be sitting here talking right now if it wasn't for that. So, fuck you, but thank you. I went to all four proms because it was a junior senior prom, and my boyfriend at the time was a junior while I was a freshman. So he would take me and then I took him. I went to another friend's prom. So all together, I went to five proms. I went to like, we had two homecomings a year. So 2, 4, 6, 8. I went to 8 homecomings, 5 proms. Because your girl loves to get ready. I love dressing up. So I was going to them. Those were interesting. Prom, we always went all out for. Like we always rented, we'd have to drive the 45 minutes out of town. And we'd get like this nice like conference center, like ballroom. I don't know. And we would have prom in there. The homecomings were in our little cafeteria, which was kind of weird. And like I think I don't think it's weird. I don't think this part, what I'm about to say, is weird. I think if you don't have this, like, I don't know, if I had a kid and I learned they did this, like, I would be like, damn, my kid's doing this. But, like, it's just so important part of growing up. But, like, homecomings where everybody's grinding and the teachers are watching you, it's like, I'm 24, and when I go out to a club and I dance with a guy, it's got to be like 2 a.m. before I'm like grinding ass and I got to be fucked up. But most of the time, I'm like dancing with them like front to front, or we're just like, kind of like holding each other, like he's holding my waist kind of thing, depending on whoever I find. But it's just like, I don't do that anymore. I don't like club wise, club. We're talking club. It's got to be like shoulder to shoulder. Nobody can see me grinding ass. But in a not middle school, in a high school cafeteria homecoming, it's essential that it happens, but it's still fucking weird. Like it's so weird. I don't even do like I said, I don't even do that now unless it's late and it's bumping in there. But it's very interesting how that all goes down. I'm also curious to know like what the DJ plays nowadays. Is it still like I know they're playing like the Cha Cha Slide and the Cotton Eye Joe, but are they playing Fiend? Are they playing Fiend instead of Broccoli? Broccoli was like my fucking song. Not like my song, but like that was the song of like my teenage years. In the middle of the party, bitch, get off of me. That kind of shit. But like I'm just curious what does it look like nowadays to DJ those kind of events? Side quest job, possibly. I mean, this is just kind of about like where I'm from and like the things I've done and my teenage years mostly. I don't know. I was a part of a lot of things. I talked about it in the first episode of like my Catholic experiences, and that's a whole episode on itself as well. The Catholic episode. Um, but I was involved in a lot of stuff like that, like youth groups and going on trips and you know, all of that. It's a big part of it. Um, I think that definitely shaped of me being so kind. Me being so kind. But I mean that in a way of like coming from a town that's so racist at times. Let's be real. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It could be racist, it could be mean, it could be uninviting, unwelcoming to outsiders, tourists, even though that's how we make our fucking money. I think me growing up in a religion such as the Catholic Church helped shape me that like, and that's a big part of why I left the church. Of, you know, we're talking about all these people, we're talking about the gays, we're talking about, you know, everybody. Specifically the gays, though. For some reason, Catholic and gays just don't mix. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, why are all these people getting hated on when all I've been taught is to like love everybody? And that's what a big part of me leaving the church was just this like isn't adding up. Like, what do you mean love your neighbor, but like fuck the gays? Like, what are you talking about? And that's when I kind of like opened my eyes and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I said it in the first episode. You can have a religion and you don't have to be part of an org. You can be a gamer without being a part of an org. Um, but that's just how I felt. So it definitely shaped me on how to treat people with kindness and respect. I'll give it that. All right. So I've definitely yapped a lot this Wait, what? I've definitely yapped a bunch today. I feel like there's probably stuff I'm missing and things you'd want to know about me, but I can't. Like, I guess I could sit here and divulge into every fucking sport and how that went and all that kind of stuff, but I think you got like the gist of like where I came from in a small town, the things I've done, the people who have raised me. We had a little emotional moment, but like I know that they're always like with me. I know they'd be so proud of me, and stuff like that. Like it's been this is the kind of shit like I was talking about with this podcast is I just want to be open. I want to be able to express my opinions. I want to be able to get emotional. I want to be able to be very raw with you guys. And I think this episode really encapsulates that. I hope this tells you a little bit more about me in a sense and where I've come from. Okay, so this is the part where you guys sent me your confessions for the week. And today I'm going to do two just because a lot of the Instagram entries are short, so I can't get like the whole gist of the story. And it might go by quicker. But these next two I really like. If you don't know what part of the segment is, you can go to Reddit or you can DM me on Instagram. My Reddit is FirewallFoxOfficial. My Instagram is FirewallFox100. And you can DM me things that you would tell your priest, things that you wouldn't tell anybody. Your names are never mentioned in the podcast. The only person that's going to know it is me, and I'm here to judge you live here. I don't judge you in the DMs. I judge you now, along with everybody else that's listening. And while I'm here, before I start the confessionals, I just want to plug a few things. My YouTube is Firewall Fox. I also have a VOD channel, Firewall Fox VODs. If you want to see any streams that you've missed. Firewall Fox 100 on Twitch. And right now, the Instagram's been popping off. So thank you to all the people who have come to support me on the reels. That shit is like busting. I've been slacking on that for some reason, but we're killing it on reels. YouTube, I'm trying to hit 1,000 and I'll do a 48-hour stream. So that's been really cool. All right, so the first confession is I had sex in the boardroom one night, not with a coworker. Wait, when I read this, I thought it was with a coworker, not with a coworker. I had sex in the boardroom one night, not with a coworker. LOL. Who the fuck you having sex with in a board? You invite somebody over. Imagine, imagine getting a DM being like, hey girl, you want to come over and like fuck at 2 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, meet me in the boardroom of my job. What are you talking about? Not with a coworker. What, the janitor? How did that even, I really would love to know the story of this. How the hell do you, was it a planned meetup? Planned meetup at my job. Job and chill. What the fuck? I think I'm going to consider this a sin. We haven't had a sin yet, and this is sinful. Because I understand having sex with a coworker in the job. But what do you mean you let an outsider in? This is a sin. That's crazy. That really took me off guard because I thought it was a coworker, but I misread that, huh? The next one is, okay, I'm going to choose this one. The next one is I've jerked off in public before and didn't get caught, but still feels like a sin. I'm really glad you came to that conclusion because it is. It's also not a sin, it's a felony, bro. Listen, like if it's in your car, listen, I can give grace. How do I explain this? I don't know. I think if you're in your car and it's like dark and you're like, damn, like you just got blue balled by a girl after a date and you're like, I gotta get this out, I'll let it slide. I'll let it go. But if we're talking like a park bench, a public bathroom, a gas station, I don't know where you could have jerked off in public if it wasn't in your car. I can't imagine. But if it wasn't the car, yeah, that is sinful as fuck. What are you talking about? That is both two sins today, double sinned. Ooh, double homicide. That is so weird. Yeah, it's hard for me to be like I said it's so weird, but it's hard for me to like I said if it's in the car, I'll let it go. But I don't have the context. But what would you have done if you got caught? And I know there's all those pornos out there that's like, "Oh my God, this girl reached through the window and jerked me off." That's not happening, okay? That's not a thing. And if it is, it's like literally, I would say there's what, 7 billion people on this planet. Only one person's gonna do that. And you know the odds of that? They're probably not on this country. Like it's just watch yourselves, y'all. Like if you're jerking off in public, even if it's a kink, is a kink worth more than a felony? Is it worth more than the dirty looks you're gonna get? All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's been an hour now for me. I'm gonna have to make a few edits here just because I burped a few times like that. Actually, no, I gotta leave that in. All right, but I hope you have a great week and you enjoyed this episode, getting to know a little bit more about me. I can't wait to keep this going. I'll see you guys on stream. I hope you have a great rest. Have I already said this shit? Have a great rest of the week. Damn. Fuck. I'm so fucking nice. God. But thank you so much for listening to the Firewall Files, and I'll see you next week, though. A brand new episode about God knows what, but it'll definitely be about derailment of some type. It's been a pleasure bringing your ears to an orgasm. Whatever the fuck that means. But yeah, thank you for listening to Firewall Files, and I'll see you on stream or in the podcast next week.